Okay, girls, so today we're going to do chapter 6.3, which covers converting decimals to fractions and converting fractions to decimals. We already have done a little bit of this in our previous chapter when we were talking about rounding decimals and writing repeated decimals, how we write decimals, repeating decimals. So here we're going to revise again. This you have covered in primary school. So we're just going to do a quick revision of how these two procedures. So the first one that we're going to cover is going to be converting decimals to fractions. Remember that the chapter title goes with 2 lines underlined, and this goes with only 1. I already explained in my previous video that I cannot do the title here with double underline, so you have to do it in your notes. Okay, so to converting decimals to fractions, we need to use, so this is the important part here, we need to use our knowledge of place value to do this conversion. We need to use place value to do this conversion. We need to know our knowledge of place value. So we're going to cover first the steps, then we're going to talk about some examples. But before I go into those steps, let's look first at the decimal. So let's say that I have this decimal here, this number. So I'm going to highlight. Just be careful, and we know that this bit here that I just highlighted is our units number, and we know that all the numbers that go before the decimal number are whole numbers, right? And the ones that we have after the decimal point it's part of a number, right? Are not whole numbers. So it's important to recognize this, and we're going to see it in a little bit why. So let's look at the steps. The first step that we need to do is to identify the place value of the last digit in the decimal part. Identify the place value of the last digit in the decimal part of the number. Second, we need to write the digits after the decimal point as the numerator. So write the digits after the decimal point as the numerator. Then we need the place value of the last digit, and that's going to be our denominator. So the place value so basically what we identified on step 1. Maybe I should write it like that. Let's delete this bit. So what we identify in step 1, that's going to become our denominator. Fantastic. And then let's bring this a little bit. I need more space. Not that much. A little bit less. Okay, here we go. So step 4, we need to simplify our fraction. How do we simplify the fraction? We need to use highest common factor. Okay, let's do some examples. So let's do a very simple one first. Okay, so our first step talks that we need to identify which is the place value of our decimal. So we know that this one is in our tenths. Therefore, if we're going to write this, the numbers after the decimal point that I have here, this number 2 is going to become our numerator, and our denominator is going to be the place value of the last digit. In this case, I only have one digit, so it's going to be over 10. And if I simplify this fraction, it's going to be divided by 2 and divided by 2, and that's 1 over 5, or 1/5. So that will be our first example. Let's do another one. So if I have 7.42. Okay, so here, first, I want you to identify your whole number. So this bit is your whole number. And then what is your decimal part? Your decimal part is this bit here. Okay. So our first step talks that we need to identify the place value of the last digit. So what is this place value? I know that this place value is hundreds. So this one is going to be perfect. Hundredths. So how I'm going to write this number as a fraction? First, I write my units. This is a whole number, therefore it goes as a whole number. And then I write the digits after the decimal point as 42 over 100. Perfect. Now I need to simplify this fraction. How do we do that? Let's do it over here. I'm going to use highest common factor, so I'm going to do 42 divided by 2 is going to be 21, divided by 3 is 7, 7, 1. 100 divided by 2 is 50, divided by 2, 25, divided by 5, 5, divided by 5, 1. Perfect. So if we write this here, some of you might already identify what is the highest common factor. If you already can identify, go ahead. You don't have to do the whole process. I'm just doing here the example for those girls that cannot see it right away, and you need to do the whole process, which is also fine. So 42 is going to be equal to 2 times 3 times 7, and then 100 is going to be equal to 2, and because I don't have a 3 and a 7, I'm going to write it at the end. I'm not going to have too much space, but I'm going to do it small, times 5 times 5. Perfect. For highest common factor, I only have to take the ones that are common, therefore highest common factor is going to be 2. So I can only simplify it by doing divided by 2, which is going to be equal to, don't forget your units, over 50. And that's your answer. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to do another video for the next step.